Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, but there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Zoe Scribner, Adam, The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty Flat Earth, Jose, Arwin, and Chris Monk. Good to have you all.
Good afternoon. Hey Nathan.
Puerto Rico.
Hello.
Nathan, you need to respond to somebody in chat. Apparently, Vinegar Strokes wants Nathan Oakley 1980 to be her dad.
Oh, really? I've got enough on my plate with one little sprog. But thank you, Vinegar, I'm touched.
And it is the real one as well. So, Nathan, Ranty wants to join on Skype because he wants to address something to do with Sly that's not connected to me.
No problem. Just drop Ranty and I'll call you on Skype.
Okay.
Or if you call me, I'll answer.
Right, okay.
Nathan, your voice has a little bit of graspiness. You gotta stop yelling at the ball.
Just a frog in my throat. I've cleared it now. I just didn't want to do it while I was actually in the middle of the intro. Check. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Brilliant. So presumably you need presenting, right?
I will do, yeah. Just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries. Just let me know when you're ready and I'll stick you up. It takes a couple of seconds for me to do it from Skype, but just give me fair warning.
Okay.
And because Ranty's a bloke, he can't multitask. I think the background story is that Sly's done 2 videos thanking Ranty for apparently proving a ball Earth. And I'm like, really? I haven't even seen them. I just went to his most recent video and I didn't even spot the old ones, but looking forward to another destruction of Sly the Liar Sparkane. Sorry, that's Miles Davis, isn't it? We need a pet name for Sly. Sly tells lies.
You're presenting. Ready when you are.
Perfect, right.
His name is pretty much a nickname. You're called
so basically,
Sly.
he did 3 videos last night. 2 of them was thanking me. Now, I don't know why he bothered thanking me, because basically he was going on at you regarding this particular photograph. So I obviously took the photograph, but you're the one that's been debating this. Now finally he admits perspective, and finally he models it. So I actually thought, because this is the first one that I saw, I actually thought that he'd turned a curve and was like, you know, becoming, you know, a normal human being and admitting that perspective is a very real thing. Sorry?
Hello, good to have you. Pretty sure I recognise you, Warren. You're a troll.
Yeah, it certainly had the icon for it.
Yeah.
So basically, he does this video, this entire video about these wind turbines here, and what he does is he models it out in a flat Earth and with perspective, and in a ball Earth with perspective. And essentially, this is what he says. Hopefully, you'll hear what he says if I play it. Right, that's pretty much all I need to say. Did you hear that?
We didn't really hear that. Maybe the volume was low.
Okay.
Or you haven't clicked share sounds on Skype.
Didn't? I did share sounds.
It was just very quiet then. I didn't hear it. Did anybody else on the panel hear that?
Yeah, I can hear him. Oh, video? No. No, I didn't hear.
Very helpful, are we? maybe just verbalise it out, Ranty. Just say what he says.
Right, it basically says, well, basically, you're not going to get much difference between the two of them, right? So the model on the left is apparently the ball Earth model with the perspective and obviously the cumulative drop over distance. And the right-hand side apparently is just the perspective view of the same turbine, same distance, view height, etc. And he essentially says that you cannot see any difference between the two. I'm just going to go to 720 because he also has another comment I need to mention what that is. They are basically identical, right? So he's actually acknowledging this now, that things actually do appear to look smaller through a camera or through your eye. And he's essentially saying that it matches both, you know, these observations match both the curve and the flat model, which is what we've been saying. I modeled this out, and I said that essentially when you run a line through the hubs, it will terminate at the horizon, which would be the same as the curvature calc. So essentially they've co-opted perspective for curvature. So basically he's basically done what we've been doing. So I don't know why he even put this video out. But what he has done, and this is quite funny, is let me just go back to his video. He did another one. He put another video out. Let me just bring it up. And he tries to debunk the observation that I did of Barrow in Furness, right? So he's got this up, and I'm thinking, yes, finally somebody's going to address this observation, the 1 foot observation, right? So he's got this video, he's got this image up, and he has it up for a few seconds at the start of the video, and I'm thinking, yeah, he's going to be talking about this, not a problem. So I'm thinking, seeing as he, he's on the ball now. He knows the fact that we've got this perspective view of the turbines dropping away, and he then decides to do a debunk of me from this DSCN 3408, which was an image that was taken by his calculations at around 16.5 miles away from an elevation of approximately 50 feet. And he says that he's now going to debunk me. He's not going to talk about any of the evidence. He's not going to talk about this. He's not going to mention this at all. So what he's going to do is going to debunk me. And how he's going to debunk me is by pointing out to these wind turbines in the background and saying, this proves the ball Earth. Literally,
Genius.
Within minutes of me watching that turbine one, where he said there's absolutely no change between the curvature calcs and the perspective view on a flat Earth. And he then, in his next video, goes and puts this out, debunking me by saying that this turbine that is getting smaller in the distance due to perspective, and therefore is smaller than the building in front that is actually smaller, but due to perspective, it looks smaller in the distance. He uses this to debunk me. He doesn't talk about the evidence, doesn't talk about the buildings, doesn't talk about anything. He just talks about this turbine.
I got two questions.
Go on.
Are they actually turbines that he's identified?
Yes, they are turbines. And they're approximately 20.
Why is he not addressed
20,
the 19-mile distance between you and the target buildings, and then talked about the bulge and all that? Why has he not done that?
He said he didn't want to talk about the buildings because he didn't need to, because he could debunk me using a video an image that I basically use for a reference of what the buildings look like from elevation.
Hello,
so
Isaiah.
because he says that,
hold on 1 second. Hi, Isaiah. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Good to have you.
Good to be
so
here.
basically he says that because he can see these turbines in the background in an image that has absolutely, let's be honest, nothing to do with my evidence. This is just a comparative to say, look at these buildings, this is what they look like from a high up elevation, compare them to the low observations, which all should be missing. He uses this image to debunk me, saying that these turbines are proof of a ball Earth. Literally, after a video of him just showing that the ball Earth and the flat Earth models with perspective essentially are the same.
Where are them turbines?
They're on some land they're about 22 miles away from this observation point. 22 miles.
Why is it not addressed the 19-mile distance between you and the target buildings, and then showing about talking about the bulge and all that? Why is he not addressing that? So the
22.
So the buildings are 20 miles. They're 22 miles. Is that
No,
right?
no. The buildings in the foreground are approximately 16 miles, 16 and a half miles away, and the turbines in the background are essentially 22 to 23 miles away. So they're much further away.
What are you saying? He's using perspective to debunk you, but actually claim curvature.
What I'm saying is that he did a video basically showing how curvature and the flat Earth model with the perspective of the turbines getting smaller match up similar, very similar. And then he does another video showing a turbine in the distance that's small and lower than this building in the foreground and claims that it's curvature. Do you see the irony?
It's like 1/3 away.
Yeah, do you see the irony of what he's done, though?
No, well, just maybe there's audience members that don't. So explain the irony, labour the point.
The irony is that essentially that could be a flat or a ball Earth proof. That turbine in the background could be a flat or it could be a ball Earth proof. By his own admission in a video that he did just before, showing.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is that particular aspect of the picture, in his own definition, makes no difference which way you model it, which is our point. Because if you model it perspective inclusive and you model it globe Earth without perspective, you get the same bloody result, which is what he's showing. So therefore, he goes to that to debunk you. It's like, well, you've just said it works in both. Why would you use that?
Yeah. So it was a pointless exercise of him even bothering putting those two videos out. Basically, he didn't improve his position at all with what he did. He's just made himself look like a complete idiot, right? By completely not even looking at the evidence, the 1 foot observation, which I've asked them to look at. They've completely ignored that and headed over to a couple of wind turbines that are in the background, right? That could be both either a flat Earth or a ball Earth proof, right?
According to him.
By his own admission.
According to him.
By his own admission, yeah.
But I wouldn't agree with that point, because I would say that if you're going to calculate out both and say that one includes perspective, one doesn't, and they come out with the same results, well, we do encounter perspective. It's unequivocal. We all see it. We all photograph it every single time. So which one you're going to believe? The one that ignores that and just calls it curve, or the one that is that?
I mean, I've never come across this ungenuine side of him, because he's never, as far as I know, he's never done anything against me. But I know Anthony's had a bone about him for a long time. And I know that Jaren's talked about him, Bob's talked about him. A lot of people have called him a lot of names, but I'm actually seeing it firsthand now. I've actually seen it, that he put 2 videos out, one where he agrees that this isn't a proof of anything, and then he uses this to try and debunk the observations that I've done without addressing any of the evidence that I've put forth.
Well, the best way to describe Sly's behaviour is, I sent it earlier on. It was basically, if I said, Sly, what's your favourite colour? Sly would say Lamborghini. And I said, I would then say, but I asked you for your favourite colour. And Sly would then say, I know, yeah, but I've just debunked you. It was pretty easy. Thanks for proving that the best cars are Lamborghinis. And I'm like, I asked you for the colour, nothing to do with cars. And that's what he does. He says, look over here, creates an argument that basically wasn't the point in question, claims a debunk on it, which is basically what Wallace did in the Bedford Levels experiment. He basically claimed it was a ball Earth proof, which is the reason why there was the fallout and the fight. But basically, he doesn't answer the question. He answers his own question and then claims that he's debunked his own question and then doesn't even address the question in hand. And that's why I've challenged him. I said, come on, then, let's do it on your channel in front of your subs. Pick your time. I want 3 hours notice, and I want the rights to simulcast it on my channel as well. And he hasn't so far. He's refused to answer with a straight yes or a straight no. He's been dead slippery. But he's dishonest. He makes arguments that weren't there and then debunks arguments. And it's like Sean. Sean can't cite people accurately. Well, Sly can't answer the question.
Yeah, but how can you see these 2 models? You can see these 2 models that he did. I think he did it on CAD. So the left-hand model.
Nathan, would you mind, Ranty, do you want to drop and then rejoin? Because I want to show you a picture that you might not be aware exists.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to do this. I want to go over this one more time.
Everyone, hold on. So just while Ranty's, just let him round out his point on Skype. Once he finishes this point, I'm sure he'll drop and rejoin the Hangout. But just you've all got it. You can see it, and he's just about to finish his main point.
Yeah. Thank you. So Yeah, so he spent all this time making this model and showing that, and actually stating in two or three different places during the video that there is no discernible difference between either model, as he modeled it himself, right? So this is the ball and this is the flat, and it's in comparison to those wind turbines that Nathan, you've been showing a lot of, these ones here. So he was trying to recreate this and try and discern what it would look like in a CAD program. And basically, he realized that prospectively, obviously, they get further away and they drop. Same with the ball earth. Now, after he's realized this and he's worked this out, he then uses the turbines in the next video to debunk me. Do you see the irony?
Indeed.
It's very slippery.
Right, do you want to drop Ranty and join us back on the Hangout?
Sure.
Yeah, so
Wrong one.
Riley, before you start, I thought of a good nickname for Sly. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it to you since you're always the one that likes to address him the most. So what do you think? Slippery Sly.
I like Slow Sly.
I think it's too kind.
How about Slippy Sly?
I got one. Slimy name.
Ah.
Slime. We should call him Slime.
Yeah, slimy name.
Giving him a nickname is almost a sign of respect, though.
Yeah, but Slippy, there's also somebody that slips, falls, you know?
Slime, Sparkane.
Slippery is like he's very devious. But if it's
Ramsey,
just Slippy, that just means he slips and falls over a lot.
I'm just going to call him completely dishonest. Completely dishonest. I mean, he took an argument for the ball, and he took an argument for the flat, and he tried to say that they were both models would look similar, and then he used that to try and debunk the observations without talking about the observations.
Nathan, can you present for me? And Ranty, click my thumbnail.
Europe.
Your thumbnail.
Ranty, can you see?
I
Just
can,
click
yeah.
hide on that ugly bar.
So this is so you got Sly saying that there's no difference between the two models, but if you include the 13 miles or the 11 miles prior and then zoom in on it, this is what Chris Monk modeled, and he shows that these bases appear to go over the curve on a ball, but also the hub heights. You can see that the hub heights are not straight, but you can put a straight line through your hub heights, which is what I did with Rupith before, and you can see that when you put a straight line through the hub heights on your picture, it's straight.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put a straight line through the first two hubs, by the time you get to the bottom one, the hubs are not going straight through anymore. So Sly, basically, we need a model off, because Sly's claiming that Chris Monk's got this wrong because he claims that there's no discernible difference, and I know that Chris has probably definitely got this right. I haven't seen how he's done it, but I'm confident that between the two, if I had to choose which is the more sincere person, I would go with Chris straight away, because I know that Sly is a liar. And I know that Sean and all them are all liars. And I would say if there's one that's clearly different, and obviously Sly's claiming that they are both the same, Sly's lying. So Sly, why is it you're getting them the same, but Chris has managed to model them and clearly show a difference between the two? They are not the same.
Well, you heard the no discernible difference part, yeah? So why would he then take the wind turbine of all things to debunk the evidence that I've been showing of Barrow when none of the buildings should be seen at all?
Just while we're still on these wind turbines, I'm going to hammer this every single time because they're not curving. So if you're going to claim that they're curving and having exponential drop applied to them, then they need to be curving in this axis, and they don't. When you look at these turbines side on, they aren't curving.
So what have people been saying about your Isle of Man stuff?
If you're asking Anthony, I think he's on the phone at the moment.
Oh, is he? Right, okay.
Well, they're just ignoring it. So you missed the first show today, Ranty, but the general crux of what Sly's been doing is ignoring the point, which is fairly typical. Yeah. He's not answering the question. He's not saying why you can see this land. You know, he's criticising things like Anthony's got Ramsey in the wrong place, so he's identified some considerably lower land than the Bride Hills, and Sly's straw man is to say, well, that's not where it is exactly. It's like, who cares? It's land that's lower than Bride that we can see from the beach 34 miles away. So why aren't you addressing that? That's the main issue.
Can you present me a sec, Nate?
His position is look over here, not over there. Bloody hell! Hang on.
Yeah, you're up, Ranty.
So yeah, so this is the similar wind turbine. I'll get off. Similar wind turbines, same location, and I've put a red line through the absolute centre of the hubs because I heard somebody saying recently that there was an objection to whether or not they ran through the centre of the hubs. So these turbines over a 2 mile distance, and as you can see, absolutely smack bang in the centre of that. There's no doubt in that's smack bang in the centre. When we come over to the last one, there can be no doubt that is running through smack bang the centre of that one too.
He said it's 2 miles, but this is presumably not viewed from 2 miles, right?
Oh, no. The turbines are 2 miles apart in total. So this one's nearer, and then the furthest one away, this one, is 2 miles beyond this one. And
how far is the observation total to the furthest one?
I think it's around. Hang on, don't make me guess. Let me bring up bring it up on Google Earth, and I'll tell you. Right, so I was essentially there. Line of sight in. So to the first one is approximately 12.8 miles. 12.8 miles going as far back as 14.8. So 12.8 to 14.8.
Thank you very much. So again, you're seeing the effects of perspective with things being very far in the distance. The fact that they're only 2 miles apart shouldn't make any difference whatsoever based on which axis they're built on. If they're curving, and they don't.
And what we have in the background is turbines that are much further away, a long way behind this. So I've managed to put the line in the center of that particular hub, the first hub, and I've ran it through, and what do you know? It runs directly through the center of the last one, all through the center of the hubs, you can see, and I can show you the distances on them, which are a lot further. Let me come back down here and measure this one. Yeah.
While you're doing that, we've got Flat Earth Math in the chat who says, how much curvature is there in 2 miles? It's about 32 inches. Well, they're not 2 miles. So what are you talking about? They're 14 miles away. And of course, because they're 14 miles away, the perspective that we see is called curvature because it's a long distance and you have an exponential increase of curve the further that you see them. So we're seeing them, according to the maths, curving. They don't curve, it's a straight line, but according to the maths, it's all correct and it works out correct, Charles. However, when you look on the x-axis from the z, so you go 90 degrees adjacent to them, they don't curve at all. There is no curve. So you don't seem to be getting it. If it's curving around the Earth, then it's curving around the Earth. If you can see it in one direction, you should see it in all directions. If they curve, they curve. Problem being they don't. All they seem to do is fall away from you with perspective, something which is ignored in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective omitting curve calculations.
Well, Charles, would you like to do the curve calcs on this? You've just worked out very quickly that there's a 36-inch change between the first and the second one over a 2 mile distance that close. Well, how about the turbines that are behind, which are these ones here, the smaller ones way off in the distance? Can you work out for me the change between the first and the last one at a distance of 21 miles to 23.5 miles? That would be brilliant. Thank you very much. And see what the curve calcs say on that, because I'm sure there should be at least a 10-foot drop, if not more,
Right.
between that one and that one.
When it suits them, they'll call the maths between the two different nearest and furthest turbines and say, oh, it's very little curve. It's like, well, what's the curve you're working out when we tell you that they're at 14 miles then, and why is it exponentially more? Oh, right.
In fact, I'll do it right now.
What they do is they manipulate the maths to suit their premise, and if they need it to be a short distance, therefore a little, that's what they'll claim.
So if we go
maths, forget the evidence.
Miles hidden, 216, and then we go to 23.5, 216.
Haven't you put 13?
23.5. Did I say before? 213 was it?
216, I think you said.
Let me do it.
So
again.
from Ranty's location, according to the geometry of
21,
Earth, they've dropped over 300 feet in total from his 6-foot observation position. They've dropped over 300 feet.
Here we go.
Right. And there's a bulge. There's a bulge between you and it, so you shouldn't see these turbines at all, ever.
Well, let's look at this. 216 hidden to the first one, and then we go to the next one, 23.5, and it's 280 feet hidden. So there should be a 64-foot difference.
Yes, that's the correct maths to do. It's the aggregate.
A 64-foot difference. So when I go through this turbine to the last one, that last one from these turbines in the distance, that's 23 miles, 23.5 miles away. This one's 21 miles away. Then not only the angular change, they should never match up hub to hub. You shouldn't be able to put a straight line through the center of the hubs because there's a 76-foot difference. 76 foot, which would mean that line would be down here somewhere.
So basically, the ball isn't getting any more bally because it's not a ball. All we're seeing is perspective. That's it.
So that would be very consistent with Chris Monk's model, what he did. To be fair.
Super. Let's keep banging this drum. Earth curve is just perspective been co-opted by ballers, and there is no exponential drop. These both shouldn't fall in line with perspective at vastly greater distances. There should be an exponentially bigger drop because it's a ball, right? No, well there isn't, because it isn't. We're just seeing perspective. Plain and simple.
Anyway, so I thought I'd just wanted to come on to talk about that slice bar cane because I saw it this morning, and so I finished work early to hopefully come on and tell you about that. I wasn't sure whether you'd seen it, but that's clearly dishonesty what he's done. He's completely not addressed the evidence, and then showed a wind turbine and said that that's proof of curvature when he's just done a video proving that it could be curvature or flat on his own calculations.
Yeah. I mean, we're well into the facts that we're excluding perspective from these very obviously perspective-inclusive photographs when we're comparing the maths, and we still haven't received a single concession from anybody. They're still saying it's perfectly satisfactory to exclude perspective, something we're demonstrating every single time we photograph anything ever. Where's all the concessions? These people have got it wrong. All the people who have applied the curve calculator to any observation ever have got it wrong. They've excluded perspective, and perspective is real. So we're still waiting. We're still going to demand that Reg Rhetoric, Gem Panda's in the chat right now. Gem, you've used these curve maths wrong. You've applied the absolute sizes of things to a perspective-based picture. You're wrong. You need to concede this. Same as Reg Rhetoric, same as Sean Hufford, same as Paper Explanator, same as Negator XX, same as Rumpus. You've all got it wrong. Gem Panda response, you're a fucking idiot. You've got it wrong, Gem. Yeah, you can swear at me as much as you like, but you have applied the maths incorrectly. You've applied a single line between target and observation, between observer and target, and we take into account viewing angles. That's what cameras do. So you've ignored all that and maintained absolute sizes by drawing a single line and ignoring all angular size changes and all angles to any target. All of that has been thrown out of the window by your maths because it's an orthographic calculation that only deals in absolute sizes. And like Ruhif showed, he doesn't even know what is and isn't perspective and what is and isn't curvature. And it is there. It's in the picture. You've just ignored it. Now that's not the calculator's fault. That's your fault. It's an application error by you, Jem. You're an idiot. You've applied the maths wrong. We're waiting for concessions from you for your error, which is what it is, an error by you.
And the ballers are getting really triggered. I think Sly's in with all his soccer counts because he's down thumbing the live stream.
Do what you like. Great. The interaction actually helps me get up the rankings, so thanks whoever's thumbing it down. Dislike the show if you dislike it. The bottom line is every baller who's in this chat right now has misapplied the mathematics. They have excluded a very real fact of life that is taken into account by every camera, every eyeball, every video recorder ever used in history. They all take in perspective. There is no omissions. So omitting it from the calculator is incorrect. Applying actual sizes to an observation that accounts for viewing angles and angular sizes is wrong. It doesn't account for perspective. You have to account for perspective because perspective is real. So you need to start conceding this. We're just going to keep banging it over your head how incorrect you are and how big a coward you are. Let's talk to Just Jem. You're a big, massive coward. You can't admit that you're wrong.
He can't admit he's wrong. He did 3 series dedicated to me on faking flat and never once produced any evidence of an incorrect statement of fact, let alone that it was dishonest. Yet he still pushed with 3 episodes of faking flat, and they're still up on his channel now, despite not being able to produce one piece of evidence that was factually wrong.
M. Scott Beach is talking to me wrong, Nathan. Daddy lied to you.
Yeah. You can't prove that Daddy went to space. Do-da, do-da. Alternatively, I can prove that Daddy did the job I say he did, and I'm sure that Nathan can prove that his daddy did the job that he said he did, and I'm sure Ranty could prove that his daddy did the job that Ranty's daddy did. But can you prove that your daddy went to space?
Yeah, hey guys, I was looking yesterday on YouTube, old videos on the west coast of Puerto Rico, which I went many times in the beach over there, you know. There's a little island, it's got 0 people population. It's like a deserted little island. It's 13 miles away from the west coast, 715 feet of height. It's just 1.12 miles by 0.68 miles. It's a tiny island. And there was a guy recording after the hurricane went by last year, and he was just doing a little panoramic walking on the beach. You can see it so clear, no zoom, nothing, just the island, all the little highlighted. No zoom, nothing. You can see the little island popping out. 13 miles away.
It's because the Earth's flat.
Yeah, small little island, and then about 41 miles from the west coast, then there's a little bigger island, about small island, little higher elevation. I cannot see that, but I'm looking at the videos, and I bet if I look hard enough, I'm gonna find videos of people just taking just a straight look at that 40+ miles island in Puerto Rico. I'm looking for it. I'm looking to get me a new P1000 and head to Puerto Rico and record all that because it's gonna be awesome.
Cool. Can't wait.
I want one.
Been loving your diagrams.
It sounded pretty good. But yeah, gotta need to get to those 1,000 subscribers. Although Ranty actually caught up with me.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, more than 12, I think. But anyway, we are well around the 2/3 of 1,000 now. So yeah, we're getting there. It seems to be growing exponentially now.
Only took me 10 years to get to 1,000 subs.
M. Scott Beach reckons he could prove his daddy did go to space. I'd like to know how he's going to prove his daddy
Thanks,
went.
Adam.
Is he going to
Cool.
come back with some space rocks?
I'd like to see some footage of the transition between Earth's atmosphere and space.
I don't think there's a signpost. How would you know that there would be the transition point that you're asking
I don't
for?
care. It's not my claim. I want to see him go into space. Literally. Those words. Into space. I want to see that happen.
So there should be a signpost that says Earth left, space right.
Well, what we get in terms of space footage is a video of a rocket going up, or potentially a helium balloon that goes up really slowly. But you see the thing go into the sky, and then it either cuts to a cartoon, or cuts to lost transmission, or cuts to something, and then a few minutes later, they're in space, right? Well, I want to see them going into space, going into it, and then coming out of it. We don't ever see that, though. Ever. This is a Russian vids point. So this was I mirrored this, so with permission. But yeah, Russian vids made that exact point on the Non Sequitur show. There is no footage of them going into space. It doesn't exist.
They could prove gravity just by showing that transition into space, because that would be the point where you go from having gravity to no longer having gravity and floating, and then show that you are not doing a rapid descent. In other words, show that you're in space, right? They could do that. But I agree, there's never been that evidence. I've never seen anybody transition from Earth's gravitational pull into space and start floating.
They can't do that because it's not real.
Yeah, good point.
Simple as that.
It's like the evidence.
But I've seen that in movies, in Hollywood movies. I've seen it.
Yep. What goes up must come down.
M. Scott Beach's daddy.
Total density is less than combined than the layer of the atmosphere at that height.
M. Scott Beach's daddy was supposed to be an astronaut in space, right? He did go to space, apparently. Wouldn't you have thought that in the advent of Polaroid cameras that couldn't be CGI'd and faked on Photoshop and stuff like that, he would have photos of his daddy in space, floating around in space, or indeed a picture of the Earth from space on a Polaroid? That'd be good evidence. Let's see what was taken out of the picture. Here, son, daddy, like,
Polaroid.
wish you were here, son, kind of thing.
A Polaroid in space?
Dun,
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, I wonder what would happen if that ink would have to dry out in space. Wouldn't it just break?
Well, no, it's not ink, is it? It's photos, isn't it? Photo paper that reacts to the light.
Yeah, but dude, it's just a Polaroid. Like, it rolls out the photograph right there.
Ooh.
But if it would be in space, then it would be drying like in the vacuum. And
I don't think it's got ink on it, Arwen. I think it's photosensitive. Does it have ink?
Sorry to...
No, I don't think a Polaroid.
Just want to ask Chris something. Did you get in touch with Mark Doxey? I don't know if he's away from his computer or not. If you're there, Chris.
I think he's gone to bed.
Maybe.
Well, he said he was going to bed.
I gave Chris Mark Doxey's contact info because I know he's been fiddling around with pinhole cameras, which is something that Chris has been looking at with curvilinear perspective. So it's just, I'm hoping those two will actually have a conversation at some point.
I'm hoping that Slice Barkane will come back with why he didn't get the same model that Chris did. Chris is in bed, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm hoping that Slice Barkane will come back and tell us why he decided to debunk my 1 foot observation by showing a wind turbine from a different elevation, different video completely, after he just agreed that there would be no discernible difference between turbines at distance due to either a flat plane or a curvature of the Earth.
Flat Earth Math says, knowledge scavenger. This is yet another example of Flat Earth folks honestly not understanding the globe model. Gravity doesn't disappear in space, it's an orbit. Yeah, but it does get to the point where you float around, apparently. That's the claim. So let's go from the point where they take off in the rocket and then show that they are not falling quickly back to Earth in a free fall state, like on the Vomit Comet. And let's show people go from that gravitational pull of Earth to not the gravitational pull of Earth and show that 90% reduction in gravity you claim exists.
yeah.
Moreover, let's see somebody from the general public do it.
Yeah.
Well, if with an increased height, the gravity would become less, that would also mean that if you go up as high as you could in a hot air balloon, or a balloon of any type that could still carry a human being up to great heights, then wouldn't you notice it? Wouldn't you just feel the weight falling off you as you go up higher? I think you would.
I still don't understand why there's such a thing as escape velocity, because they say that the escape velocity of Earth is a set speed. But why do you need the set speed to escape? Surely the rocket would simply be able to keep continuously thrusting itself out of the atmosphere.
Well, technically, because you need the momentum to simultaneously break free from the gravitational pull in an area where... no, it doesn't make any sense, really.
Why do you
they
need...
still believe that in mid-space you can still make thrust.
Yeah,
So,
but hang on. Yeah, that's my point. Why do you need an escape velocity if the rockets work in space?
I think it has something to do with that it's required to not deflect or something. That if you don't have the right velocity, the right angle, then you will deflect off the stratosphere or something.
But don't question the narrative, man.
Math, bro.
You need escape velocity, just accept it.
Well, if you think about it,
It's math, bro. They probably got an explanation mathematically for it. You know.
So I'm just looking it up now on Google. It says the escape velocity to get out of the Earth's gravitational influence of such the massive body that it is about 11.186 kilometers per second, which is 6.9 miles or 25,000 miles per hour at the surface. But if you think about it, if the helium balloon continues to rise and it gets further and further away from the Earth's gravitational pull, that therefore its rate of ascent should be increasing, right? It should be getting better and faster and faster and faster. And there shouldn't be any escape velocity required for a helium balloon. So why would there be an escape velocity? What are you trying to catapult out of? Is it because the rockets don't work in quote space? Why do we even need it? I don't get it.
Can you present me, Nate?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to talk about a couple of sunset photographs that I took from Fleetwood. And we all know that when we look at the sun, we see a round shape. It's all round. So I want a baller to come in and tell me if I put a circle in, so that's a perfect circle, and I place it over the sun, why is it wider at the sides if this is the real sun that we're looking at? This is another image. Let me do the same on this one. Put a nice round circle in. There's the sun. That's what it should look like. How can we see it like this?
Illuminati confirm. I see an eye.
Well, we're losing height from it, aren't we? For some reason, you can argue that it's like an atmospheric effect, which it may be, but you can also argue that we're changing the viewing angle that we're observing it at. You know, like if it was a rugby ball, you can make a rugby ball look round by looking at its side on.
Or a
but
boat.
As you get round the side of it, it starts looking rugby ball shaped.
Maybe it is compression. Maybe it is the optical compression.
It is. It's the same as the boat. The sun is
the same as the boat.
Yeah. It's squashing because it's near the horizon.
Exactly.
It is as far away as it can technically be at the edge of vision. So
right.
Nah, further away than that.
Yeah,
I know what there's a lot of atmosphere in between. So
once they concede that this is atmosphere, you know, this is lensing that we're seeing, there can be no definitive proof when they say that the sun sets, because either the sun is actually changing its shape like this, or, you know, it's just going further away, and this is just the lensing effect that we're left with afterwards.
I know what it'll be. Sly will bring out a video saying, "Thanks, Ranty," and he'll claim that your circle wasn't a perfect circle. And
well, it is, because I made sure I held down the up key. Yeah. It's a perfect circle.
So maybe Flat Earth
the sun is oblate, apparently.
Maybe Flat Earth Math can tell us why we need an escape velocity. Seems a reasonable request.
Well, if you can't do that, maybe you can come and tell us why we're seeing the sun get wider at the sides rather than in height.
Is this with a solar filter, Venti?
No. This is
that's gonna be their excuse. You know that's what they're gonna hold on to. They're gonna say like, "Do you use a solar filter?" Etc. Etc. Etc.
It also has kind of jaggedy edges there, here and there. So
Let's see.
It's oblate.
Try this one.
Yeah, that's what I said.
How about this one? Let's see what happens when I do the same on this one. Put a nice circle in. And that seems to be getting even bigger now, even more squashed.
It's a big tangerine in the sky.
It's no longer round. It's more like you say. It's more like a
It's
rugby ball.
Spheroid.
It's a big tangerine.
The
pudgy around the
reduced
edges.
viewing angle squashing it.
Look at the curve on the horizon there, by the way. Must be a ball.
Lovely. Thank you, Ranty. You got any more?
No worries. Any more what? Images?
Any more for any more? No,
Loads
fair
of
enough.
images.
Can I just let the chat know that I haven't seen a response from Sly? Yes or no? Straightforward. Yes or no? Are we on for a hangout? Simple. If he's done it, I haven't seen it. If he has done it, can someone tell me what his answer was? Because I've not seen it. Oh, Sleeping Warrior. The physics of escape velocity are very easily studied. You can do some reading on it to understand the concept, but the stuff in orbit is very much under Earth's gravity, strongly. Right, so my question is simple. Why do we need it? If rockets are supposed to work in space, why do we need an escape velocity? Why doesn't a helium balloon just continue rising and rising and rising? Because it should be escaping Earth's gravity and it should just carry on until it disappears into space, right? So why do we need an escape velocity? I understand that it's very easily studied, but I'm asking you to answer the question.
Not easily studied. You can read about it, he said. That's not studying it, is it?
No, I have read about it. That's why I'm asking the question.
Well, reading about something is different to actually doing it and studying it and figuring out how it works. You know, you can read about it and you can read about the source material that's provided by NASA and how they say it works, right? You can't study it. You can't go out and achieve escape velocity to see what happens. You know, this is just some concept that they've invented.
Helium balloons will eventually burst under the low pressure, but well, it depends on how big the balloon is, though, right? If you have a really saggy a really saggy balloon, then fill it with helium, then it ain't gonna burst, is it? So it should continue to rise and rise.
What he means is the low pressure outside.
Yeah, but if you have a saggy balloon, it's not gonna burst.
He's talking about gas pressure, so where's he getting that gas pressure from? The gas pressure is the force it exerts on the walls of the container. So, where's he getting that gas pressure from?
Notice that he actually hasn't answered the question. The question is, why do we need an escape velocity? Shouldn't a balloon just continue to rise as it gets further away from the Earth's gravity?
Eventually, the gas will be at such a low density that the combined gas in the balloon, even though it is the lightest recorded known by man, there's still the weight of the balloon and everything to account for. So it just, at a certain point, it just can't go any higher.
Here we go.
The combined density of everything surrounding it will not be enough to lift it further.
Mark Elaine says that you need an escape velocity because you need to overcome the pull of gravity to the point where your forward velocity matches the pull of gravity, which is called
benign.
Which is called
what?
No, you don't need to. That's not true. The only reason that you would need an escape velocity is if your rockets don't work beyond a certain height and you need to use the built-up speed that you've got to slingshot out of here because your rockets don't work. I can't think of any other reason for why it wouldn't work if rockets continue to work, because you can go up at 10 miles an hour in a constant speed, and you should then be able to break free of the Earth's gravitational pull just by virtue of your altitude. So unless rockets don't work in space, why would there need to be an escape velocity? I don't see any logic.
From what I remember, it is required because if you don't have a certain speed, then you will deflect off the atmosphere and just fall back.
Therefore, rockets don't work in space, right?
No, it's more fake than that. Doesn't really address it. It's just like there's specific conditions and angles and an exact speed, not too fast, not too slow, required to escape. It's like trying to escape from an invisible egg shell or something. I don't know, it's weird. I never really put too much thought in it, but that's how I learned it way back. By a certain angle, a certain speed, Same goes for re-entry. If you re-enter too steeply, you'll burn up. If it's not steep enough, you will deflect. Yeah, that's a thing. They actually say that. Will deflect. And yeah, it's very weird how it works. The stratosphere and everything.
I remember, if I'm not mistaken, learning that they had to fly with the spin of the Earth in order to gain momentum, so that they took advantage of the Coriolis reality.
Mm,
Is that a mistaken memory?
I think that's just for re-entry. It depends on what they want to do. If they want to go, if
Well,
they
yeah,
eventually
that's what
want to
I'm saying.
use the rotation to sling themselves somewhere,
Right.
they want to
I
re-enter, then they're
always
going
thought
to
it
go
was.
the other way.
Yeah, I always thought it was for leaving Earth orbit.
I mean, it's astronavigation's always been very complicated because it's so theoretical.
So you still at St. Bees, Anthony?
I am. I am coming back home either tonight or tomorrow morning.
What's
Tomorrow
the weather
morning.
like there? Can you
It's
see
windy
anything?
today. It's warm, it's windy, but it's clear, bright, nice.
Can you see the Isle of Man?
You can, but there's a layer of mist on the horizon. It's often on the horizon. It obstructs what we see. Any obstruction's curvature, though, right? Even though it's white, misty, cloudy stuff.
That's what they'd have you believe, isn't it?
Any obstruction's curve.
They'd never say it's atmosphere, though, did they?
Oh, by the way, Ranty, have you got that picture where that raindrop? Can you get that picture from where that raindrop was big enough to obstruct the whole shoreline?
Yeah, I think Nathan's got it.
Not to hand.
Oh.
If you can dig it out, because I think there's quite a few people that don't realise that a single raindrop is big enough to block out the whole shoreline behind. Some people have seen that, but I reckon a lot of people might not have done. It's definitely worth presenting it, because if a raindrop that's close to the camera can block out the shoreline, waves can also block out the shoreline.
It's not necessarily just the waves. You've got the effects of splash. You've got water. Even if there's a very, very small ripple of tide, like Ranty's seeing, the accumulative effect of the splash is going to block stuff out. There's no two ways about that. And that is what's occurring. Now, the more it occurs, the more it gets blocked out, because it's obscuring the midpoint of the convergence line. And anything above the midpoint is going to block your view. Well, it doesn't take much accumulation of little splashes to block your view. Now, it's not going to be the case that it means that there's towering waves. It just gets more and more obscure at the horizon with this accumulation of little tiny droplets of water, which is obviously what you're going to get across water when it's splashing around. But yeah, basically stuff can obscure the bottoms of stuff as you look over vast distances, even on a very calm day, because you've got little splashes of water. And what Ranty caught was a tiny splash on a very, very calm day, but one little droplet can block out a whole building in the background.
Yeah, and still the whole the slant still counts. The closer the observer height is to the ground level, the narrower the field of view will be, the closer by the obstruction the apparent slant starts. It's just a rule of thumb. So if you're very, very close to ground level, then things very near to you in the foreground will start to obstruct things in the background.
Sooner.
It's very basic.
Sooner, because the things in the distance are obviously reaching the convergence point, but just they're doing that further away. In other words, the angle that you view something in the far distance is still going to get narrower, or very narrow, with distance.
Yeah. But, yeah, the obstruction will already start to occur with things that are even closer by, relatively. the lower you get, the lower to the ground level. And this is basically, technically, because of perspective, and more specifically, because the field of view is narrowed down. Because you're so close to ground level. So because of that, the slant effect, the apparent slant, starts sooner, closer by, causing the obstruction to start much closer by.
Precisely. Hopefully Ranty's throwing away in his hard drive to find out that bit of footage. Have you found it yet, Ranty?
Sorry, I wasn't actually. No, what was it? Sorry, that you'd asked me to get.
The picture when you've got the little splash in the foreground.
Right. I'm sure I didn't take that image, did I? I thought you did it from the iPad.
Maybe I'll have a look as well.
I think you did, Nick. Just reading some of the comments on gravity. Flat Earth Math says, if you study high altitude helium balloons, they all expand dramatically. I agree. Eventually they'll burst. I don't agree. If you have a balloon that's big enough, it won't burst, and you just need to have a pressure release valve in it anyway. But escape velocity is to break free of gravity. Satellites are orbiting, so you say. Mark Elaine, you can't orbit at 10 mile an hour. Okay, agreed. M. Scott Veach, stop trying to debate Sly and Sean. You know they haven't fully understood the argument. Not sure what he's on about. If you really believed you were right, then you wouldn't dodge me so hard. I'm not dodging you, M. Scott Veach. I just think you're full of shit. Flat Earth Maths. Even the Apollo missions didn't achieve escape velocity. They went the moon. They've got to have escape velocity. What are you talking about?
So that's interesting. Is he now denying the moon landings happen?
He must be, yeah, because if they didn't reach escape velocity to get out of Earth's gravitational pull, then they couldn't get to the moon, right? Have I got that wrong? Sleeping Warrior, if you don't, Mark Elaine says, if you don't reach escape velocity, gravity will just pull you back to the ground. Right, but why do you need to get to escape velocity when you can just continue your rocket boosters up there? If you're heading off in a perpendicular direction away from the center of mass, once you go far enough, you are going to be outside the Earth's gravitational pull. Why do you need the velocity to get outside the Earth's gravitational pull unless your rockets don't work anymore? Oh my God.
By the way, yeah, isn't the gravitational pull supposed to be weakening the higher you go, the further away from the central mass pulling at everything? So it would already be decreasing gradually. Makes it even weirder. Should be very
sent you that image on
eventually.
Skype.
The higher up you go, there
Sorry.
should be very little force required to keep propelling the entire thing.
I've sent you that image
Much less force than below the ground, where the pressure is higher and everything.
I've sent you that image on Skype, Ranty, if you just want to bring it up.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, the higher you go, you're getting further away from the object's center of gravity, right? So the gravitational force must get less and less and less.
Yeah.
So why do you need the velocity?
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, another gap in the theoretical system. Another one. There's so many of these. It's ridiculous.
I'm just putting these coordinates in, so just bear with me. Right, so I've got that. Copy that.
Flat
It's
Earth
starting
Math.
to seem less and less like an organism, a body of science that is uniform, and starting to seem more like a blob of just loose ideas just lying next to each other, hoping they won't be picked apart.
Sorry, just got this. Sorry, just got a. What you guys can't see this and hang out. I've just put it out for the audience. So if you have got the watch page, you'll see it. But if not, you won't. So yeah, got a message from Chris. Too damn hot to sleep. Top is a side-on perspective view, and the bottom is the orthographic view, both on the ball model. So these are Ranty's wind turbines from the side. Obviously, in the orthographic view, it's an orthographic view, but in the top one, you've got a perspective view. So there you go. That's what it should look like on a ball. And this is basically making my point. If it's curved, it's curved. Anyway, I'll get rid of that. Have you managed to find it, Ranty?
Yeah, I've put it up.
Okay, I'll just bring the Hangout back up. Give me 1 second.
So what it is, somebody was saying to me that he doesn't think waves are enough. I think it was Rune Thorsten. I'm not quite sure. It might not be him, but somebody said he doesn't think that waves are enough to blot out the horizon in the background. Well, if waves are, well, put it this way, if you can have a droplet of water close to the camera, it makes sense that you would also expect a wave that's significantly bigger than a drop to be able to do the same thing. So let's just put it out there that perspective is still a thing, and it hasn't been accounted for in the curve calculators.
Can you see this, Anthony?
That's an excellent picture. Can you? Is that a freeze frame, or is that have you just stopped it in the video?
That's a freeze frame from the video. Yeah, the wave splashes up right in front of me, and this is the droplet.
Screen capping it as he was playing it to me when he first showed it.
So in this area here.
So do we have it as a JPEG that we can share, or is it? Have you just paused it in the video?
Yeah, well, Nathan's taken a screen cap of it and sent it to me. That's the buildings of Barrow are behind here, in this location right there.
There's a bulge in a way.
And look what's in the way. Look what's blocking us.
A droplet of water. That's not a sun.
It's a bulge. Look, it's a water bulge.
So if a droplet of water that's close to us is able to distinguish or extinguish the whole of the shoreline, then it makes sense that waves do it too when you get close enough to them.
Cool. But in essence, this effect, this is just one splash that Ranty's got in the very, very, very near foreground, like right next to the camera. But ultimately speaking, that effect is going to happen across the entire body. And the further you look, the more of that effect you see. Little droplets of water basically in the air. That's going to happen consistently across the surface of any moving body of water because it's splashing. And splashing means splash, right? Well, yeah, if it's farther away than, 20 inches in front of the camera, obviously it's not going to block out like it showed then. That's a very, very near single droplet. But the accumulation of lots of droplets will eventually cause the circle of confusion. And the worse the atmospheric conditions are, the temperature differentials are, the worse you'll get that effect. And we see that demonstrated in the photography.
The wobbling around of the very small time waves over a vast distance in combination with the heat exchange between the sea and the air and the moist levels, very unpredictable circumstances, yielding all kinds of different distortions, every kind. Compression, mirroring, and sometimes even a local type of, what's it called again? The local looming thing?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, apparently it had a specific type of name.
Fata Morgana? Fata Brumosa?
Yeah, the Fata Brumosa. So all these types of effects can occur in these very unpredictable circumstances with all kinds of variations present in a very narrow field of view where all the light's got to travel through all these odd and varying conditions towards your eye or towards the camera.
I'll do a big shout out to Chris. I know he's on the panel, but I don't know if he's actually in front of his computer. But he's done so much work for us, and yeah, he doesn't get as much credit. I call him like the Galileo of flat Earth, but it's a deserving title. He's an absolutely amazing guy, and yeah, big shout out to Chris Monk Seeley for all the work he's been doing for us recently. As always, very much appreciated. We wouldn't be where we are arguing what we're arguing if it wasn't for Chris. So thank you, Chris.
He does seem to help us confirm a lot of things. Like, oh, Chris, can you mold this out quickly? We need to figure out if it's actually what we think it would be.
Yeah, basically, Chris keeps us ahead of the curve. That's what Chris does. You're like, this is their argument and how they will present it, and you go, oh right, we hadn't obviously seen that it could be presented in that way. So when they come forth with their video doing it, you go, we've already seen this. Great. But that's down to Chris. So kudos, Chris. Not all Chris, of course. We've also got Ranty. Subscribe to Ranty Flat Earth, everyone.
I was going to say, I think the baller should be thanking Ranty today with his... he was demonstrating what they need to put in their calculator there with that differential way of calculating the relative curve between the different or relative height drop, and how that would be demonstrated. Actually, it was spot on, mate. I was trying to get to the phone.
Right. I'm just gonna
spot on, but that for me is the way you have to calculate them as a differential from the point of the observer, because as Nathan says, the curves. So
yeah, I agree. If you want to just display me again, Nathan, this is a video that I took of those wind turbines. So
you're on.
I can show you me panning across. So obviously the ones with the yellow bottoms on, these ones here, ones with the yellow bottoms are in the near foreground, and the ones the white are the ones further away. And when we pan through, we've got two more sets of turbines now, which are the really far ones, 21 miles away and 23.5 miles away. So we're going to come to them in a minute. So there's one set. Should be another one just after this. So they're the. Oh no, maybe it wasn't just that one then. So
Randy,
yeah,
you know the picture where you've got the two sets together with the different lines. Can you just call that up? Because something I don't know if I'm right here, but with that different maths, the two lines shouldn't be the same angle because the other stuff is in the background and is subjected to more of the extremity of the curve. The back one should be steeper. I mean, but more significantly steeper than the front line. That make
they're a different height. The turbines in the background are a different height to the ones in the foreground.
Not the heights. The heights are irrelevant. The angle of inclination of the line. They look pretty similar, don't they?
Maybe phrase your question differently, Adam.
Yeah. As you were saying, how you calculated the difference in the heights between the first and the last one.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to run through now.
If you was to put to calculate the differences between each one, what you would see is the drop rate is slightly increasing. The differential is increasing. So when you then go to the back ones, that differential has been compounded by the curve maths even more if it's on a ball, so that the second perspective line, which is what it is, but the second curve line that you would draw should be steeper because it's being applied.
Yeah, 100%.
In the same picture. Yeah.
Well, if I take I've just taken the screenshot now of the very far end turbine. So if I show you that on Google Earth where they are, get rid of that for now. Get rid of that. Right. So
while you're looking for that, that was, I think, if I'm following Adam, that's my point on the Lake Pontchartrain shot, is that you have an exponentially demonstrable curve that you can see, even though it's not a curve, they're calling it that. But we don't see that here with the turbines. It's not the same.
No. Well, here's what I'm going to do. This was my location right next to this bench. I sat on this bench, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself an elevation above sea level of 100 feet, right? I mean, that's far greater than it actually was, but I'm going to just do that for argument's sake. I'm going to put myself at 100 feet, and I'm looking at now at these turbines, this last set of turbines here, which the first one would be 21.3 miles away. 21.3, and the last one is 23.6. So let me put that down. 21.3 and 23.6 with an elevation of 100 feet. So if we go to the curvature calcs and we do the 21.3 0.3 at 100 feet in elevation, right? So that first turbine, it should have dropped by 54 feet. So forget the drop. Let's just do the hidden 54 feet. So we're going to say that first turbine on here. Where are we? Did I take a print screen of it? Yeah, I did. Right. So file, new, edit, paste. that one's dropped by 54 feet. So I'm just going to write that in there. So that's this one here is dropped by 54 feet, which means that the last one should have dropped by an awful lot more in the end. So 54 feet, that one dropped, and the last one is 23.6. 23.6, right, which is hidden 85.97, so I'll call it 86 feet. So I'm going to put that in here. That's 86 feet. That's 86 feet hidden on the last one. So what we should see is obviously there's an angular change, which looks consistent. They seem to be dropping at at the same sort of rate, but we should see a discrepancy there of 32 feet, not inches, 32 feet. So when I put this line through, and I line it up through the first center of the hub, and I go through, we should see this arcing. We should see a 32 feet of arc, right? But we don't. What we do see is a straight line through the center of the hubs, right? So this last one, not only should it have reduced in size angularly like this one, but it should have dropped by 32 feet. So essentially that hub should be about here, right? That hub should be about here. You know, this hub there, this hub there, this hub there. This is how it should be in relation to each other, because it would then be arched as it goes over the curve. But it's not. What we're seeing is a consistent straight line right through the center of the hubs. Now that doesn't work on the ball model. There should be this one should be 86 feet dropped. This one only 54 feet, and then you apply the angular change as well. Well, when you run it through the center of the hubs, it's perfectly straight. There's no difference at all.
Because it's just perspective, Ranty. The Earth's
exactly.
flat.
That's my entire point. Exactly. There is no cumulative curve. This should be arched. There should be an arch on this.
What's the distance from the first and the last turbine?
So to this one here, to this turbine here, let me write it on so that we've got it down on screen. I'm just going to change the size of that. So it's 21.3 miles to this one, this turbine right there, and to the last one is 23.6.
How does that compare to the Pontchartrain bridge that is always thrown in our faces? You know, the last bit of the bridge that curves downwards.
Yeah, that's what I brought up earlier.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're bringing up a different point, but I brought up the Pontchartrain because the Pontchartrain is dynamically more obvious if there's a curve, but we're not seeing that same. I think it's what was it, 13 miles of the Pontchartrain distance?
Yeah, well, because this thing starts at 21 miles, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the big one, 21.3 miles away. The small one, 23.6. It's smaller due to its angular size change at distance, and it's consistent. It's a consistent angular change, the same distance apart. Each one of these ones is a consistent distance apart, which means that what they're doing is they're just shrinking by their angular size. But compounded on that, if you believe the ball, it should also have a curvature applied to it, which this last one should have dropped by 86 feet, and this one would have been the base at 54.
So let me jump in real quick, because right now we're seeing the difference of what, 2.3?
A house.
2.3. Yeah, but 2.3 miles is the difference between the first and the last, right? Something like that?
Yep.
Okay, so 2.3 miles. That is roughly the distance of the Verrazano Bridge. And the Verrazano Bridge has the two towers that are 3,200 feet apart. So the two towers are less than a mile apart, and there's only 1 5/8 inch of curvature. So there's no way you're going to get 32. There's no way you're going to get 32 feet of curvature in 2 miles, because in 1 mile you only have 2 inches of curvature on the Verrazano Bridge.
This is their math.
I'm just saying it out loud.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree. We know it's all bogus. We know it's ridiculous, but it is the math. The math says that on their spheroid Earth, if you see something at 23.86 miles away from an elevation of 100 feet, 86 feet will be gone. 21.3 miles, 54 feet will be gone. Well, in that case, there should be a very obvious arcing on these turbines. You know, we're not talking about an inch or a 2 inch. We're talking about the size of a house, a 2-story house with a roof on. That's the difference that we should be seeing. And we're not. They run straight through the center of those wind turbine hubs.
Cool. I think was that Ranty's phone going?
No, that was me. Apologies, guys. Sorry about that.
Is that what you were thinking, Adam?
Well, yeah, yes, and no. What the point I wanted to take it a little bit further. Shut up, mate. I'll ring you back in a minute. I was just doing a quick bit of maths there, and so imagine we've got another set of turbines nearer, okay, and they're exactly the same, and they're the same space, the same.
Yeah.
You used to do it, say, at 15 miles and what, 17.3, and calculate the difference between the front and the back one in terms of that 32 feet. It comes out at 11.97, and that's what I'm saying. That picture where you've got the two lined up, they should be noticeably different in the front and back heights in terms of the angle it creates from the back turbine to the front turbine.
Oh, I see what you mean. So if I take a screenshot of that.
If we were on a ball, is what I'm saying.
Well, let me. See if I can work this out. If I put let's put a box in, like so. Now we know they're on the same sort of line. Wow, look at that.
There you go.
Where's the exponential drop that we should experience on the globe? I don't understand. Is it because it's flat and we're only experiencing perspective, do you think?
Good possibility, isn't it, that?
Well, what do you know? Good spot there, Adam.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think you're right. I think you're right over the target at the moment, Ranty. 119 dislikes. This must be very painful if you're a globe head. Very painful.
Wow. So these turbines are killing them, really. These turbine observations. Because Flat Earth Math was saying, oh, there's only 36 inches of drop over the near turbines, you know, these ones. I don't know whether that's accurate or not.
You've got your title, Nathan, then. Killer turbines today.
Yeah. But this, for sure, there's a house difference. There should be a curvature of the size of a house between the first and the last one. So where this first one is to the last one should be the size of a house difference as it curves over, but it doesn't. It runs right through the center of the hubs. And that's what gives an elevation of 100 feet.
Yeah, but they're going to bring up that 1 degree per 69 mile shenanigan, and it's not going to be significant. They're going to say it's not that significant. It's just not.
Again, for the audience only, I've popped it up on screen where Chris modelled it and rendered it out. So if anybody in the Hangouts watching the actual watch page, you'll be able to see this as well. But essentially the top is a side-on perspective view and the bottom is an orthographic view, both ball-based. There you go, so it's on screen now. Yeah, if it's curved, and you should see curve. It doesn't matter what angle you view it from. While these guys want us to only view it from a given angle and say, well, we can work out the accumulated drop if we're looking at it down the line. But of course, you don't see any x-axis curvature. Why would you? That's crazy. Well, it's like, yeah, you would see it. It would be curving if it's curving, right? No, apparently not. According to the globe model, you only need to look down one line and ignore perspective at the same time. Make sure you do that.
I should upload this video, actually, the turbines, and if anyone wants to use the footage and do their own analysis on it, they're more than welcome. The best turbines to focus on, like I've said, is at the end of the video to the right-hand side, which I think they're called Ormond. Let me just double check. Yes, it's Ormond Wind Farm. And in the foreground, you have Barrow. So there's the Barrow, and behind them you have the Ormond. So if you want to do the calculations on this yourself, you're more than welcome. You'll see that it's absolutely through the hubs.
I'm happy to go on a bit longer if you guys are happy to, because my kid's being uncharacteristically calm for a change. She's normally climbing the walls at this point, so you guys want to carry on? If not, I shall round out the show now. What do you reckon?
You could really help my OCD, if I'm being honest, and just do the numbers properly on that image, Brantley, just to see the differential on the two. Like, I'm not sure if you know the distance, or at least give them me so I can do it.
Right, hang on then. Let me share my screen.
You're going to do this live? Because if so...
Yeah.
Right, mate, I'll pop you up on screen and, yeah, we'll go through it live. Wicked.
Okay, right, so let's save that image there. So I've already given you the calculations for the Ormond wind turbines, yeah?
Yeah.
So now you're looking for the calculation for the Barrow wind turbines, which are in the foreground. So let's go to them and do the distance on them for you. So again, I was right by this. I was actually sat on the bench with my tripod right in front of me. So I've put myself at an elevation of 100 feet. And so to the first wind turbine is a distance of, looking at 12.98, let's say 13 miles, round it up 13. And to the last one, 14.8.
13's got a drop of 112.
Like you say, if there's no difference between them essentially from that sort of distance and height, but there's a massive difference on the last one, then like you said, the comparison that I did on, where are we? Here, where is it?
What was the other distance?
What do you mean? I just told you then. It was the first one starts at 13 miles and it ends at 14.8.
What did you use? It was drop. Was it drop or just hidden? You were
just hidden.
Just hidden.
Yeah.
So you've got 4.35 feet hidden at 14.8 miles.
So that's and 4.3.
13. You've got 4.5 inches, so 0.4 of a foot. So that's a differential of 4 feet.
What did you say the difference was?
A differential between the height of the front turbine to the back turbine with those shorter distances.
Of what?
4 feet.
4 feet, right.
Yeah, you've not applied as much curve yet, have you?
Oh, so there's 4 feet on that one, and we already know that, was it 32 feet?
Yeah.
So 32 feet on this one, right? Yeah. So you should see a marked difference between the two lines, but as you saw, I did this with a rectangle and ran the line directly through the center of the hubs. They're completely straight. So this one should be arcing by 32 feet, but it's not. And this one should be arcing by just 4, which it isn't.
I am going to have to do an Oakley disclaimer there, though, that this is all their maths, not ours. This is all the balls, what the ball's saying.
This is just perspective. This is what we see. They're all level. They're all lined up. It doesn't matter how far away I went to film these wind turbines. I would always see them in a perfectly straight line. Simple as that. They would always just be perfectly straight through the hubs. This one here, I mean, 21 miles, 23.6. They're just completely straight. There's no curve. But what they would rather you do is look to what's going on at the bottom. But no, because you should see the curve on through the hubs.
You could get more geeky and do each individual turbine, and that's the bit that would demonstrate what you're saying. There's no curve. All we're saying is
sorry to interrupt. Sorry, he has done that. So debate 177 Ranty went through and compared each and every one of the turbines in that particular show. It may not be the same set as we're looking at now, but it doesn't matter. And that's what I was about to add at the end of when Ranty finished. So when you calculate them out individually, the amount that they've dropped is perfect. What they've said in the maths matches what we see, very, very well. So it's interesting that when you actually calculate out a difference between them and how much drop they're actually suffering, it does actually match the maths, even though what that's creating is a straight line. So in other words, by virtue of them ignoring perspective, they've just created a mathematical equation that in isolation will work most of the time by excluding perspective. When you start doing these comparisons of wind turbines going into the distance and find that they mathematically match, to a point. I mean, what Ranty's showing at the moment is when you get beyond about, I think you told me the figure exactly, it was about 20 miles. They're basically reaching
from the lower observation, yeah.
Yeah, and when you're reaching that point, they've gone beyond what you can basically see in terms of their height, and you get all of those, the blades bending into the horizon and things like that. But there is a maximum point that you can see. But while you can see them, you're not seeing exponential curvature. You're seeing them drop in line with perspective. That's all we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what we should be seeing is, what we should.
Ranty, can you draw it on the screen? So if you draw a triangle, basically, so that from the back turbine to the front turbine, you draw a straight line across from the front turbine so it intersects the pylon, and then draw it up to the front of the front turbine, and that should create your triangle. Now,
right.
What we're trying to say is that adjacent face on those two things, one should be 4 foot and one should be 32 foot. But as you see, if you draw the triangles, they're going to be different scale, but they should be very similar in size. If you just do it on the picture.
Yeah. On which? Sorry, this one.
Yeah, just do it on the picture. So you'd like to take a line from the back turbine and take it straight out to the front turbine so it intersects on the.
What, here?
No, go to the back turbine first. Same point, back turbine.
This
That's
one?
it. Yeah, draw a straight line to the front turbine.
Going back.
Yeah. And I'll bring it down the pylon so it's at 90 degrees instead of the angle. Keep coming down. Yeah. Now do this. That's it. Take it straight up, and that's one triangle.
All right. Yes, that's about one triangle. Yeah.
Now, what we're saying here is on these front pylons, this triangle here should represent 4 feet, shouldn't it? Of differential between the top and the bottom, because it's of the curve mass. Now, if we do the same on this one, the shape of that triangle, the angle here, theta here, if it's the same, it shows its perspective. If this in some way is 32 feet, because you'd have to scale this up to just this scale, but we're saying that this one is 32 feet. But look, the angle's virtually identical. So it shows that it's only perspective. There is no ball, there is no curvature in that, look. It's demonstrated by the... So what's genius about that picture? The two in sequence at different distances. You can hide a straight line. You can say, oh no, it's only over 2 miles. You wouldn't really necessarily see it, which we demonstrate you would, but you can elude that. But the shape of those two triangles is not a eightfold difference, is it, on that adjacent face?
No. But again, what you should be seeing is, like if I take all these lines off of here, just get rid of everything for a minute. Like this turbine here, for instance, if I put my line in, what we should be seeing is to that one would be okay. Then from the next one, it should be lower down. So it should be starting to arc. This one should be slightly lower down than that one, so it should be arcing again. This one slightly lower, so it should be arching. This one slightly lower again. And this is what we should be seeing over this sort of distance till we get to the last one, which is...
But you got to think about what we talked about with the Verrazano Bridge again, because the Verrazano Bridge only gives you 1 5/8 inch of curve for 3,200 feet.
Yeah, but it's all to do with the perspective around the ball. And their math says that once you start going over, you know, it's an exponential drop. It's 8 inch per mile squared. So it's not as easy as that. It's like once you go over the 20-mile distance, you start talking in feet that you get in a lot of curvature on.
No,
So
I understand what you're saying. I'm just.
but this is how we should have seen this. This is prospectively what we should have seen as it's going around the. I mean, don't forget these will be each anchored to a round Earth in their model. All of these will be anchored to a round ball, right? So we're looking out to them, and their math says that this one would have dropped by a house. And what we should see is we should see a curve going like this, instead of which we see an absolute straight line through the hubs. That's what we see, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
We're seeing perspective as they're getting smaller in the distance, so the changes, their angular size is changing, and so they're getting smaller by a consistent size because of the same distance apart, which is brilliant because for us working this out, you know, they're a consistent distance apart in a straight line. It's fantastic for us to do this sort of stuff, but this arch is what we should see on the curvature calcs. Well, we're not seeing it.
Indeed.
You know, this debunks the ball completely.
If it's curved, it's curved. I can't help just keep saying the same thing.
Yeah, I understand. This perspective is taking place as you're looking at it really close away from 1 mile away, and you're looking at the perspective on place. Now, if you're looking at it 10, 15, 20 miles away, every mile it should be a huge exponential drop. That's why, you know, that's what ranting is, I think, right? I mean, it should. The further away, the biggest exponential drop by their numbers.
Anything to add, Adam?
I'd probably just reiterate the point again. That is correct. It should drop, as Randy's saying, but the second one should be curving even more, because the point of curve, yeah, that one should be. Remember that if that first one's dropping by 4 feet from front to back, then the second one should be dropping 32 feet.
Yep. So like so, and then an even bigger curve. Yeah. You know, it should be more discernible. You know, it should be like so. But we're not seeing it. We're just seeing through the hubs. You know, this should be a height of a house. This one here should be the size of a house, a 2-story house with a roof on in the UK.
It should be curving. It isn't.
Yes. It isn't.
Because the Earth doesn't curve. The Earth's flat.
I'd agree with that.
Let's see him argue this point.
Right, anything else, guys? Everyone's got a bit quiet and lethargic with all the heat, probably.
Yeah,
cheers, bro. Nathan.
A couple of beers.
I think that's definitely what's in order. So yes, that's probably an opportune moment for me to thank all of the debating panel for making this debate possible, and also give a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, well, you already know exactly what to do. Smash that dislike button. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!